You're watching Darker Than Darkness, and we're joined today by...
Matt from Wraith.
Right on. Ready for some questions?
I am ready for some questions.
Right on. Starting off, you had an interview in 2019 with Sleeping Village.
Yeah.
And you said that thrash and speed kind of go hand in hand, kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
How do you guys take the black and thrash label that's been given your band, and is that kind of like the intended style you were going for?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think the blackened part is the vocals, but I've always been a fan of thrash metal and speed metal, and I think I can't sing to save my life, like actually carry any melody. So my solution was that I would just scream, and I think it kind of fits the music, so it ended up working out. But yeah, I have no problems with it, that's for sure.
Okay, right on. Do you think that there's like just a lot of overlap with genres that
in terms of speed and thrash?
Maybe so, like or like maybe some hardcore and death metal, or anything to do with.
I think in order for people, it's just an evolution, right? So like, you know, punk turned into crossover, turned into thrash metal, turned into speed metal. So I think it's kind of impossible not to have some cross contamination. But definitely, you know, I think we have pretty diverse tastes in music, so it comes through when it comes through.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you are our first episode in the new year.
Okay, cool.
And you guys currently have 26,000 Spotify listeners.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I was wondering, what bands would you like to see? Would you like to share the stage with in 2025?
Oh man, like bucket list bands?
Oh yeah, anything.
Oh dude, Toxic Holocaust is the one that I always say. Midnight was on that list, but we've had an opportunity to share the stage with Midnight a few times. We did that tour with them, which was awesome. Power Trip would be killer. Fugitive would be at the top of that list. But Toxic, I think that's like that's the one. If I could get a show at Toxic, I think that would be great.
Right on. And I was curious what the band looked like, because I know you and I believe the drummer, I can't remember his name at the moment.
Mike.
You guys had some sessions before Chris joined the band on bass.
Yep.
I was wondering what the songwriting sessions or practice sessions look like before the bass element.
Sure. So I actually started Wraith as a one-man band, and I wrote the first batch of songs, and then I showed them to Mike, but Mike lived in Florida at the time. So he was giving me like a FaceTime tour of his new house or apartment, and I played the music for him because we had been in a band together previously, and he really liked it. And I think he made a comment like, oh, you know, if I lived in the area, I would play drums for it because I didn't have anybody to be in the band with me. I'm like, oh yeah, like too bad. If you ever come back, we kind of laughed about it. Turns out he hated living in Florida. He only made it to like a month. And then he moved back. I helped him like unload the U-Haul. And I just remember shortly after that, I kind of roped him into jamming some of those songs with us. And then that ended up building into, you know, writing the rest of the songs. And we actually had a buddy of ours named Adriano that played bass. So he was in the band for maybe probably almost a year. And then right around Heed the Warning, Chris joined.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you guys had a recent album, Fueled by Fear, in 2024. Yeah. And I was wondering, did you try to revolutionize anything in your style for this new release? Did you try to accomplish anything new? What did the milestone kind of look like?
I think the goal for us was just to try to consolidate all of our preferred styles of fast music. So we did really push ourselves in terms of songwriting for this new record. I think it was a little bit uncomfortable at times in terms of like, you know, I think the record's like almost 45 minutes. So in terms of length, I know that it was definitely a little bit outside of our comfort zone, but I think we all stand by it still. We're incredibly proud of it. I know that it kind of challenged us as a band and as musicians to try to really push ourselves to write, you know, some music that was maybe a little more sophisticated than what we had done previously.
Right on. And with that album, along with the music and the album art, it depicts a lot of like war, terror, insanity.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there like a narrative that you tried to drive home, and what kind of inspired those topics?
Yeah, so it was funny. We actually came up with the idea or the concept for Fueled by Fear while we were recording Undo the Chains. Mike had the main riff. He plays guitar. He's a great guitar player, so it's nice because we all can share riffs. So Mike, we were sitting outside while somebody was tracking their parts, and Mike showed me the riff. And he was like, oh, I got this kind of loose idea, like we can start working on it later. And I can't remember why, or I don't know if it was his idea or my idea when we were talking, but I think somebody said Fueled by Fear. So in my head, I kind of earmarked that as making sure everything was kind of linked into that. So if you listen to the record, it heavily relies on the idea of fear. What are you afraid of? What's the world afraid of? What are people afraid of? Yeah.
Right on. And I had a fun one for you. So there's the Wraith Reaper character that you guys have on a lot of your album arts. I was wondering if you guys ever had a name for him.
Man, that's a great question. Like an Eddie or a Vic?
Yeah, an Eddie or Vic, like own mascot.
We never named it, but I think we should because I really don't think at this point we could have a record without a Reaper somewhere present. So it is kind of linked to us at this point. But I'll come up with a name. That's going to be my chance. When I name it, I'll make sure I let you know. I'll put it in the
we'll
comments
include
of
it
the
at the end of the episode for sure.
Yeah, I'll try to come up with a name for it.
And I see that we're wearing some Chemical Dependency and Grave Ripper supporting the rest of the bill tonight.
For sure.
Do you take a lot of like pride in indie music? I know you said that Mike was from Florida, and I'm not sure about the rest of the band. But
so we all no, he's not from Florida originally. We're all from Northwest Indiana. He had just moved to Florida just for a different opportunity, but. Do I take a lot of pride in like indie as in Indianapolis or independent music?
Both. Like
Both.
The independent music of Indianapolis.
Yeah, so we live about 3 hours north of here. But in terms of independent, like Midwest thrash especially, I really do try to champion it because I think personally, and I'm probably a little bit biased, I think the Midwest currently has one of the best metal or thrash metal scenes around. There's so many great bands, death metal included, and I just feel like people should know about it. I feel like typically it's the coasts. Everybody talks about California or New York as being kind of the powerhouses, but man, I really feel like Indiana and the surrounding area has a lot to offer in terms of intense music.
And I asked Sean Frazier this in an interview with him. Do you think that thrash in the Indiana or maybe just the Midwest has a different sound than what it does on the East or West Coast?
I think so. I really do. I guess it's similar to how like the Bay Area thrash bands got labeled the Bay Area thrash bands. Now if you listen to that stuff, it distinctly sounds like that region of California. I think the Midwest does have something. I think there's like maybe a little more grit or intensity that comes from the Midwest. A lot of people are, working class people. We deal with bullshit weather like this all the time, and I think it does kind of shape or change the way we, write music or express ourselves in the music for sure.
Right on.
Yeah.
And one final one for you.
Sure.
There's a lot of like stylistic differences between this like new, almost like modern wave of thrash compared to the rise of thrash in the 80s.
Yeah.
What do you think are the causes of those differences? Do you think that the genre is just kind of evolving into this new sound, or do you think it's ditching its like stylistic origins?
That's a great question. I think it's just like everything, right? It's change is inevitable. You have to evolve. It's evolve or die, right? I think because there's just been so much music and so many people, and I can even speak for myself, I'm influenced by so much more than just 80s thrash metal that it's impossible for that stuff not to come across. I love punk. I love old hardcore. I love speed metal. I like some power metal. I like black metal. I like thrash metal. At the time when thrash metal was invented, there really wasn't all of that to pull from. So I think it did have a very specific sound. But as metal has kind of evolved over the decades, it's, I think it's impossible. I'm actually glad. I feel like that if there was a bunch of bands that all sounded like, the records we all loved from the 80s, then it wouldn't really be that much fun, right?
Yeah, you get burnt out pretty quick.
Exactly. I think
agree.
the fun thing, even in a bill like tonight, you got Grave Ripper, Traitor, Chemical Dependency, and us, and all of us we're all playing some form of speed or thrash metal, but there's definitely stylistically some differences,
Right
I
on.
think that makes it really cool.
Right on.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
We hope to catch you
Thanks,
next
dude.
time.
Yep, we'll see you.